Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video where I sit in my car and talk numbers and tell you guys why I think 9s are very realistic by the end of next year and how I'm going to get there. So let's get into it. So for about 5 videos now, you guys have seen me and hear me talk about I'm going to get a 9-second pass. I'm going to make this a 9-second street car. I'm going to make it a 9-second drag and drive car, all the above. So one of the biggest things that I think are going to help me is the GPI ported CID track attack heads. Talking with Andrew from GPI, he says on my build, it'll probably be hard not to see 30 to 40 horsepower gain, and that's throughout the whole RPM range, which is absolutely amazing. Definitely helps an NA car pull through everywhere. Exactly what this car does amazingly already. So that, and I said, you know what, I want to pair it with the ported high ram since I have an unported high ram. And he goes, well, you'll see another 10 to 15 there. So easily another high side 55 horsepower, low side 40. Obviously it's not all about horsepower, it's about torque too. And those torque numbers are probably not going to be very far off from what the horsepower numbers are for gains. Obviously I think my car's high 500 torque, low 600 torque. I'm not real sure, but closer to the 700 number for horsepower. I should probably get on a dyno here shortly to really tell, but that's why I think the headers this year, for the price I got them at, is going to be a very easy add-on to ensure that I run low 10s this year. I already have the mile an hour for it. I already trapped 132.5 in like 1200 DA, so that's really not that bad. Obviously, neither of those two were actually either of my two highest passes. It was a 1099, but that was back when I had the shifter issues on the drag and drive, and it was at a different track than I'm normally at, Dragway 42, but that track's not going to be a stranger to me next year, because if I'm going for numbers, it is a little bit of a faster track without traveling very far. It's only about an hour away from me. So realistically talking, again, before I was rambling on, I think a 10.2, 10.3 is very realistic this year. Reading online in the GPI chat, people took off their sway bar and got a 10th better to the 60 foot. If I can average like a 145 and maybe get down to like a 140 60 foot, that would be wonderful. I did do a 150, and I usually stay in the high 1.5 60 foot range, low 1.6s. So if I can keep the average between 1.4 and 155, that would be amazing to me. And as always, the 60 foot usually is what makes or breaks the pass, especially with a manual car where it's a little bit harder than to just, you know, hit the gas. But obviously I'm not bashing automatics, as I say, but I'm just saying how much more challenging it is for me to do what I want to do. There's stock bottom end cars running 9s, and they're like, oh, you have a built bottom end and you're running 10s? Nice. And I'm like, thanks. But I think when I start to get into the 9-second territory, everyone will be starting to have a little bit more respect for me because of what it's taken me to get this far. And that's the thing. I've had a lot of headaches and stuff to get to this point, but really it's a pretty simple build to this point now. But so sway bar I'm taking off. I did get bead locks. The only other thing I'm going to change, obviously, besides the headers and exhaust, I'm getting a different chassis brace for the rear, or differential brace for the rear, from Cortez Performance. That's going to be probably one of my next install uploads, maybe not just one of my next uploads. I don't know how soon I'm actually going to get it. It'll definitely be before next season. But I think, especially with the stock shifter back in it, the headers, the brace, the bead locks, and removing the sway bar, I think those 5 things are going to be absolutely huge to even shock myself and shock you guys that are following along so far about, wow, this guy isn't just talking, he actually had knowledge behind it. Especially because I was having to lift shift, and I was lift shifting the same numbers I was no lift shifting before I added the brakes and the intake. So that's probably 4 or 5 tenths right there, honestly. But obviously the faster your car is and the longer it takes for you to shift, the more it hurts. So yeah, I don't think 3 or 4 tenths is really that far off. And then adding everything else I'm adding wouldn't, I think 10.2, 10.3 would be exactly where this car sits. Possibly full interior, probably not. I'm probably gonna have to removed the seats out of it and got the interior again. But I'm going to do that all early on next season and push for a new number. And then when we get into drag and drive form, if I can average 10.5s, 10.6s, next drag and drive, it'll be 3 or 4 tenths faster than the fastest passes I've ran last year. I'll be happy with that. It is in June, beginning of July, so it is going to be a little bit harder on me because I was doing it in October last year. But I think the high numbers, me saying interior in and also messing with density altitude, so I think it'll still be a fun challenge. I don't think there's any way I won't be averaging a 10. I think it's going to be a lot more easy this year for me, especially if I can get 3 passes at each track. This car is pretty dialed and consistent, as I've always made fun of manuals for being inconsistent. I could be pretty consistent with this car where I could actually probably compete for another most consistent car next year as I did this year. If not one of the fastest. I know a couple of the guys that I have, like a guy that I raced last year, he has a Mustang. He's like, oh, I'm going to put a GT500 supercharger on it. And the guy that won last year is putting his twin turbo Coyote now in a Ford Fairlane. So I doubt I'm going to get fastest, but anything can happen. But yeah, this year, 2026, I'm going to be pushing for just low 10s. But then next year, when I do the heads and the high ram, there's no way I'm not going to see a 9. And I'm not going to take no for an answer. I really think I'm going to get a lot closer to a 9 this year than what anybody thinks, even what I think. I really don't know because I've never been in a car this fast. But I just got to tame it and do what I know this thing knows how to do and go from there. So thank you guys for watching, and I really appreciate you guys listening to me rambling on and on. If you guys have any input, questions, comments, concerns, please leave them in the comment section down below, and I'll just keep trucking along, talking in my car videos until I'm able to just get this thing out on the road and get something to happen. So appreciate you guys for bearing with me. The good content is coming. Estimated time, 3.5 months. But I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace.